Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to talk about one of the biggest, most exciting leaps in AI. We're moving beyond AI that just answers your questions to an AI that can actually get a goal, come up with a plan, and see a project through, all by itself. Yeah, this is the world of agentic AI. Let's get right into it. Up until now, our whole relationship with AI has been pretty simple, right? It's been a straight line. We give it a prompt, we ask a question, we give it a command, and it hands us back a block of text or maybe an image or some code. It's this very direct, one-for-one kind of deal. But what if you could give AI a big, complicated goal instead of just a simple command? I'm talking about something like, hey, plan my team's offsite trip to Lisbon. And it could actually go and research flights, compare different venues, book the hotels, and even send out the calendar invites without you holding its hand every single step of the way. That's the huge idea we're digging into today. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around what makes this new agentic AI such a game changer, we first need to look at the AI we're all used to. And don't get me wrong, these systems are incredibly powerful, but they all have one thing in common. They operate by following a pre-written script. Now, take a look at the top half of this diagram. It really shows you what I'm talking about. See how those three systems are kind of separated out? And notice the arrows? They all point one way. Straight down, from the query at the top to the output at the bottom. They wait for you to tell them what to do, then they do it. They're fundamentally reactive. So the most basic example is your standard LLM chatbot. We've all used these. We type in a question, it zips through some system prompts, hits that big language model, and bam, it spits out an answer. It's a direct, one-and-done kind of thing. Super useful for sure, but it has no plan beyond answering that one question. And next up, we've got something called robotic process automation, or RPA. Now, this might look a little more complex, but the system itself is still pretty rigid. Think of a program that automatically grabs data from an invoice in your email and plugs it into a spreadsheet. A trigger kicks off a script, and it follows that script, maybe using a pre-programmed tool. But it's always on a static path. It can't improvise. If it hits an error it wasn't programmed for, it's stuck. And then there's RAG, which stands for Retrieval-Augmented Generation. This is what makes a lot of AI systems today feel so incredibly smart. Your question is used to search through external documents or the web, and all that extra information gets fed to the LLM to give you a much better, more informed answer. It's brilliant, but look at the flow again. It's still a straight line top to bottom. It isn't solving a big, multi-step problem on its own. So if all that stuff is what agentic AI isn't, then what is it? Well, this is where everything flips. We're talking about a huge shift from an AI that just follows instructions to one that can actually independently achieve a goal. And here is the absolute key difference. The AI we just looked at follows a script someone else wrote for it. An agentic AI, well, it looks at the goal you give it, and it writes its own script right there on the fly. It figures out all the steps it needs to take, and then it just goes and does them. Okay, let's go back to our diagram and look at the bottom half now. Big difference, right? No more straight lines. Instead of that simple input-output flow, you see this dynamic, continuous loop. This system is acting more like a project manager, breaking down a huge task and managing all the pieces until the final goal is met. At the very heart of this whole system, you've got a component called the orchestrator. And you can really think of this as the brain of the operation. It's the central command center that's doing all the thinking, all the planning, and all the adapting. So this orchestrator is running in that continuous loop we just saw. First, it does planning. It takes your big goal and breaks it down into a bunch of smaller, bite-sized steps. Then it uses tools. And this is huge. It can actually interact with other software programs. It also has memory, so it remembers what it's already done and what it's learned along the way. And maybe most importantly, it uses feedback to look at its own work, see what's working and what's not, and change the plan if it needs to. It's this constant cycle of doing, learning, and improving. But here's where it gets really, really powerful. The orchestrator isn't trying to do everything by itself. Just like any good manager, it knows when to delegate. So when a task comes up that needs a very specific skill, it hands it off to a specialist agent. So this is the AI's specialist team. If one of the steps in the plan involves writing some code, the orchestrator just sends that job over to a coding agent. If it needs to do a really deep research dive on some complex topic, it delegates that to a retrieval agent. And if it needs to double-check its facts and provide sources, it calls on a citation agent. Each specialist does its one job really well and then reports back to the orchestrator. So you've got this central brain, the orchestrator, delegating tasks to a whole team of experts, and they're all working together. And when you put all those pieces together, you get that fundamental shift, the big difference we've been talking about. We're moving from just giving instructions to actually defining outcomes. And this right here, this really nails the core takeaway. The systems on the left are reactive. They do a single task when you tell them to. The agentic system on the right is proactive. It takes a big, messy, complex goal and works on its own, step by step, until that goal is completely finished. This quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. An agentic system receives a goal, creates a plan, uses memory, loops through feedback, and delegates. It just keeps going, adapting and working until that main goal is achieved. It's persistent. And, that brings us to this final, really fascinating question. If AI can not only do tasks, but can manage entire projects and delegate to its own team, what does that mean for our role? What tasks are left for us? Maybe our job shifts from being the people who do the work to the people who direct the work, the ones who set the big, meaningful goals in the first place. It's a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.